Imagine with me for just a minute. It's almost 5 o'clock. Your shipping carrier is due to arrive anytime now. Production is running wide open because you have 500 more parts to complete before they get there. And just like that, your press goes down with a hard stop. If that felt a little too real, it's because I've been right there with you. Today I want to break down creating or improving a preventative maintenance system into 10 simple steps so you can avoid more situations like the one we just experienced. Keep in mind, a preventative maintenance system also helps you reduce your overall costs on your way to improving and impacting your overall profitability. If you don't know me, my name is Dave Chrysler, and I've spent more than 20 years in operational leadership roles and now helping manufacturing leaders just like you create systems that free you to focus on driving growth and operating with excellence. First and foremost, you need to understand that there are two basic strategies when it comes to maintenance: reactive and proactive. When it comes to reactive, think about a run to failure model versus a proactive model, which is what we're going to dive into today, being more of a preventative maintenance system. The second step in creating a preventative maintenance system is to identify the KPIs or key performance indicators that are most important to your organization. So those KPIs could be downtime, safety, cost of quality, throughput or utilization, total number of failures, time between failures, average time to repair. Again, you want to be thinking about what are we currently measuring and also what is important for us to measure in the future to understand, have we had an impact on our overall KPIs and are we moving in the correct direction? Next up, step 3 is developing our goals based on the KPIs we identified in the previous step. The thing to be thinking about when it comes to creating your goals as it relates to preventative maintenance systems is, number one, you want to be developing SMART goals. That is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Step number 4 is all about identifying the key pieces of equipment or potential failure points that are throughout your operation. You could take employee feedback. You can talk to your maintenance department if you already have one. You can dive into your KPIs to help you identify these things. But again, you want to list out the pieces of equipment or potential failure points that you are going to be including in your preventative maintenance system. Step number 5 is all about reviewing the OEM or original equipment manufacturer's documentation for maintenance recommendations on the pieces of equipment and or potential failure points that you identified in the previous step. Keep in mind there are 3 distinct triggers when it comes to planning for and creating preventative maintenance systems. The first one being a usage-based, how many cycles perhaps this piece of equipment has performed. Second one being a time-based, how many total hours has this piece of equipment run. And the third one being a predictive. This breaks down into a couple of different things. It could be technology-based with something like IIoT or Industrial Internet of Things, or it could be more based on history and therefore more of a predictive nature to say, at what point in the cycle do we need to perform this preventative maintenance to ultimately reduce the amount of downtime we experience or reduce the amount of unplanned downtime we experience for this particular piece of equipment? Step number 6, once we've gathered all of that information from step number 4 and step number 5, we are going to develop some sort of a checklist or maintenance log record. The important thing to keep in mind here is that we detail out the intervals that the particular preventative maintenance needs to be performed at. We detail out the specific tasks that will be performed during those intervals. And then finally, we want to detail out who is responsible for that particular task and that particular interval. You can also include any type of double check or second set of eyes, any type of leadership involvement or auditing at this point. But the important part is to develop a piece of documentation to go along and ultimately drive each one of these intervals, tasks, and responsibilities. Step number 7 is about creating a process around maintenance requests, because even the best preventative maintenance systems need to also allow for unplanned downtime, because things still break even though you've developed and implemented a preventative maintenance system. So you want to be mindful of what is the process like when you do have a piece of equipment go down that was unplanned for. Is there a formal request, documentation? Is there technology that helps out with that? But be thinking about what is the communication method and the approval process that needs to be performed for general maintenance requests that don't fall under your preventative maintenance system. Step number 8 is an area where I see a lot of manufacturing companies overlook, and that is your spare parts inventory. You need to know what parts you have available, what parts belong to what pieces of equipment, and what repairs you can ultimately perform in a very short time frame versus having to order parts out and having to plan for that additional lead time that may be needed. Step number 9 is about developing and maintaining a maintenance backlog. Here you're going to keep track of any type of open repairs, whether that's because you're waiting on parts or even situations where there's been a temporary repair made that allows a piece of equipment to get back up and running. Maybe it's not able to run at the expected rate or something like that, but you want to be able to keep track of the items that need to be addressed further and or that are created. Maybe there's a piece of equipment that needs a minor repair that's not impacting any type of productivity, but you still need to keep track of it because you've got parts on order or something like that. You want to be able to understand how many pieces of equipment, how many maintenance tasks have not been performed that still yet need to be performed, which is exactly what you would utilize a maintenance backlog for. Step number 10 is just giving some additional considerations to the things that have not been addressed in previous steps. Those things could be outsourced resources. So if you don't have a dedicated maintenance department or dedicated maintenance team, you could bring in some sort of outside resource, outside contractors to be able to address your maintenance requests. And that can be on an ongoing basis. That could be per project or per particular request. But you want to be mindful of what are those resources? How do we communicate with those resources? How do we make sure that we stay on the radar of those resources? Because we all know when equipment goes down, typically, if you're not on the radar of somebody you're bringing in from a contractor basis, it can be a little bit challenging and you can ultimately pay either emergency rates or something like that. So you want to be considerate of what types of outsourced resources are part of our preventative maintenance system. Secondly, you want to be thinking about, we talked about the spare parts inventory. You want to be thinking about what are the lead times with some of the parts that we don't have in inventory that we potentially could utilize if a piece of equipment goes down. We all know the supply chain challenges that the pandemic has introduced, so it's a great time to take a look at what parts do we have in inventory, what parts require a really long lead time, and if it's cost justifiable, we may want to bring one or two of those items into inventory to ensure we are able to satisfy any type of repair that may become needed. The third area that is an additional consideration for most manufacturing facilities is implementing some sort of technology solution to help guide some of your activities and ultimately your preventative maintenance system. I always like to leave technology till last because, from my standpoint, the most successful systems are really developed around planning, people, and process. Technology comes in to not only support what we're doing on the planning, people, process aspect, but can also streamline and help avoid additional errors. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to continue learning about business systems that free you to focus on driving growth and operating with excellence.